Welcome to Building a Beautiful Life, session number 2. This is a Dharma Gates online offering in which we're exploring the question, what does it mean to live a beautiful life? How can we as young practitioners of the Dharma, how can we as young people interested in the spiritual life bring learnings and wisdom from the Dharma into our lives? So those are really the questions we're exploring, and we're excited to be here in session number 2. I'm personally really excited for this session. I know that Rick Jansen is going to do a terrific job. You guys are going to really enjoy getting to know him. He's not too much older than me, but seems to have so much more wisdom, and yet is like relatable, and it's just going to be really fun to get to know Rick. I'll also share that personally, I touched on this in our community building this week, but I didn't grow up with much of a relationship with the earth and the living world. And it's only recently in my own Dharma practice that I've become much more intimate with the earth and living beings and plants and animals, and seeing how those are connected to my own practice. And so that's some of what we're going to be getting into today. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our facilitator and teacher for this week. Everyone, I'm pleased to introduce you to Rick Jansen. Rick's spiritual path started in 2013 in Nepal. He was on a backpack trip, and that was where he met his first teacher, the Tibetan Lama, Thumten Rinpoche. Excuse me. Currently, Rick practices within the Plum Village tradition of Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. He is a long-term resident at Plum Village in France. So he lives at Plum Village in France right now, if you all heard of Plum Village. And now since the spring of 2022, Rick has worked really closely with Cynthia Jers. And Cynthia, she started something called Gaia Mandala, which is a really beautiful organization that Rick can share a little bit more with you about. He also works as a nature and soul-oriented purpose guide in his private practice and a mentor with Purpose Guides Institute. For the future, he holds a really strong intention to work with young men and also out in nature on pilgrimage. So he's really interested in pilgrimage and nature-based experiences. He was born in the Netherlands, and yeah, I'll stop there. I'll let you say any more about your life or introductions. Those are enough words. Just want to thank you, Rick, for being here. We're really excited to have you, and please take it away.
Yay! Thank you, Benjamin. Wonderful to be here with you today. Oh, I see myself. Let's not do that. Gallery view. Here we are. So actually, we're a small group, so I feel just drawn to call out your name and say hi, just to connect in that way, to really get that sense. So, hi, Andrew. Hi, Ava. Hi, Alex. Hi, Kaya. Hi, Chris. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Amy. Hi, Christopher. Hey, Melissa. So good to be with you today. If you're able to, I would love to see your vases on the screen, so that we really have that sense of being here together in connection. If for whatever reason you can't, I understand that, but it's an invitation. Do I want to say anything else about the introduction? Well, let me start with that. Originally, Cynthia Jers and I were meant to be here together. But Cynthia is dealing with quite a serious health issue in this moment. So she decided to take care of herself, which is a great practice to make that decision. So she invited me to come forward here to share with you today, which I am grateful for that opportunity. to share, and I will incorporate, of course, her teachings here with you. So let us dive in. What I would like to do with you today is obviously share about Cynthia's work, as well about my own path in all of that, and about the Earth Treasure Vases and how that practice, because it's a Dharma practice, how that can inform us about those questions about meaning, purpose, living a beautiful life. I feel there are many insights that we can gather from the work that we do that I'm here to offer to you today. So it will be an interactive session. I will offer a short guided meditation to begin with, very briefly, to just kind of drop in together. Then I'll share more about the work, the insights, more of a short teaching, short sharing in that way. And then we'll have really an experiential piece where we will actually engage with an Earth Treasure Vase. And if you don't know yet what an Earth Treasure Vase is, don't worry, we'll get there. I'm going to explain that quite soon. So I have been living in Plum Village, and I still am. And what we do there is we actually begin each session with 3 sounds of the bell. And the 3 sounds of the bell are there to help us to return to our own bodies, which we've been doing last week in the opening session, to really be present with the present moment, with how we're feeling right here, right now. So when you hear the 3 sounds of the bell, it's the invitation to come back, to take some conscious breaths, to just really sense, like, how am I here in this moment, and just welcoming whatever is here for you. And then after that, I'll read a short text and offer a brief contemplation to sit with, to open our session here. Just being aware of your breathing, being aware of your body sitting here. You can have your eyes closed or open, what you prefer. And I'll just read a few words of Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh about the earth. And just feel what it stirs in you, if it stirs something in you, and what it stirs in you. At this very moment, the earth is above you, below you, all around you, and even inside you. The earth is everywhere. You may be used to thinking of the earth as only the ground beneath your feet. But the water, the sea, the sky, and everything around us comes from the earth. Everything outside us and everything inside us comes from the earth. We often forget that the planet we are living on has given us all the elements that make up our bodies, the water in our flesh, our bones, and all the microscopic cells inside our bodies all come from the earth and are part of the earth. The earth is not just the environment we live in. We are the earth, and we are always carrying her within us. So just sense if you can touch that connection in whichever small way is available to you in this moment. Just see if you can touch the truth of being the earth, feeling the earth inside of you, feeling the earth around you. And if that helps, just taking a deep in and out breath. And from whatever degree of connection you feel in this moment, just get a sense of what it is that you care about. Feeling, knowing that you're part of this bigger whole. What do you care about? What is a deep, heartfelt question that's burning in this moment? What is a strong intention that you carry, perhaps for this session today or for this 8-week online retreat that you're part of? And perhaps even imagine that, just like Cynthia had the opportunity to meet a 106-year-old Tibetan meditation master in a cave in the Himalayas, and she had the opportunity to bring him her most true question. Imagine that you were in her shoes, on that path, knowing that you meet an extraordinary person. What would you ask? Don't necessarily think about it, just really allow from a silent space, from a deep listening, from a curiosity, to see what bubbles up. Allow yourself to be surprised. And just coming back here in the circle. Your own time, open your eyes. And soon we will go into breakout rooms to share that intention, that question, anything else that came up during this meditation. But before we do that, I just want to open up the space if you feel drawn to share here in a bigger group, to share a little bit of what arose in you. Feel free to do so.
I started thinking about habits and how not just my habits, but everybody else's habits. It's like when we're dealing with our suffering habits better, we live better in relation to the earth and it's like if one person's handling their habits or suffering better, they can help other people. And how it seems like caring for the earth maybe is underneath these habits as humans, like certain things that we do and how we are. And you know, I felt guilt. It's not I'm not doing enough. But then when you understand the context of society and habits and whatnot, it kind of puts it a bit more into perspective. It's like, well, in the moments that I handle my suffering and habits well and live well, and then I'm good to others so that in that moment that can be alleviated. It all goes towards the same place of living for the earth and living for each other. So
That's beautiful, Melissa. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe one more before we go into the breakout rooms. Who feels courageous today?
Are we sharing like the question that we would ask the person?
If something bubbled up for you, Rachel, feel free. Yes.
Yeah, something did come up for me, but it doesn't sound as beautiful or like positive. So what came up for me is just like living everyday life and like working and like paying bills and like being in debt and how it kind of feels like you can't really do much and your life becomes like small. And then that starts to like make everything else like your mindset small, like how you start to just like settle for things that aren't as great because it just feels like, you know, everything in your life is so small and it's kind of like almost like being trapped, but that's just what came up for me.
Right. I get that. It makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. I will share a little bit of my own story after the sharings here, which I think weaves in with this, what you raise. So thank you for raising it. Yeah. Let me see. We are 12 people. So maybe Benjamin, could you make 3 groups of 4 and just give 5 minutes of sharing time where you can introduce yourself very briefly and spend most of your time actually on sharing whatever arose in this contemplation or what arose in listening to Melissa or Rachel, just what's alive in your heart coming from this first introduction into our session.
So we'll do 3 groups of 4, you said?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think this will assign you to a room, Rick, so you'll be in one of the groups. Would you
That's fine.
like that?
Yeah, I'd enjoy that.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. We look forward to seeing you guys back here. All right. Welcome back, everyone.
Okay, here we are back in the main room. I hope you've all had a nourishing, insightful time together. Probably, because what I'd like to do now is to share Cynthia's story, my story, and our work together. And I will see, I made some notes of the breakout room I was in, so I will see how I can weave that in to make it as relevant as possible for what's present here for you today. So I'll set a timer to not go on too long, because I can do that. So let's see if I can kind of make it something between 10 and 12 minutes. Okay, so we began the session with really feeling the connection to the earth and sensing into what's alive when we touch that connection, or when we may be aware of a disconnection that's there, because I do think that many of us find it hard to connect, to feel an embodied sense of connection to the earth. So both of that can be true. And what I'd like to share with you is, when Cynthia was my age, so mid-30, I'm 33, which for Cynthia is more than 30 years ago, she became aware of a very burning question in her own heart, which is, what can I and what can we do to bring healing and protection to the earth? And this was in, I think, the 90s. And this question became clear for her when she knew she had the rare opportunity to meet a 106-year-old Tibetan monk, a teacher, a lama, in a cave high up in the Himalayan mountains. And I think for her, she received a very unexpected question, because she heard from this lama, what you have to do is to fill and seal those clay vessels called earth treasure vases, and to bury them around the world in places of need, and to do that together with the local communities. And you can trust that the vases will do their work. Now, this all may sound somewhat magical, mysterious, and esoteric, and like, okay, what does this have to do with my questions? And how can this help me? So we'll get there. But first of all, the Earth Treasure Vase practice is an ancient Tibetan Dharma practice, going many, many centuries back. And a helpful way of seeing it is that it functions as acupuncture for the planet. So in the ways that we will put acupuncture needles in our own bodies to restore balance and harmony within a human system, in the same way, the Earth Treasure Vases, when placed in the body of the earth, can help restore balance and harmony within the earth system, of which we are intrinsically a part. So Earth Treasure Vases have been brought to places like Congo, Liberia, Kosovo, Israel, Palestine, the Amazon forest, Australia, Colombia, India, and several different places within the US too. And there are currently around 60 different Earth Treasure Vase locations, and more are being stewarded in this moment as we speak. So the way that we see the treasure vases, it's an expression of engaged Buddhism, which is a term that Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh has brought forward. And it's very central in his teachings, where he basically says sitting in meditation on our cushion is important and essential to gain understanding, insight of our own suffering, of our own lives, of our families, of our friends, and of the wider life around us. But ultimately, we need to show up in the world. We need to take action coming from that place of equanimity, understanding, love, and compassion. So Cynthia and I share both in the path that Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh has laid out, which is basically centered around mindfulness. And I live currently in the Plum Village community in France. Plum Village is the community that Thich Nhat Hanh has founded. Some of you may be familiar with that. And Thich Nhat Hanh is actually Cynthia's root teacher. And really, it's all about engaged Buddhism. And what we do is all about engaged Buddhism. And we want to bring, just to say it again, that understanding, healing, and insight that comes through meditation and through reflection. We really want to bring that in day-to-day lives. So when I spoke with Cynthia about some of the learning that she has experienced by being, for the past 30 years, very deeply in the world, carrying out, for example, Earth Treasure Vases in a country like Liberia, which was recovering from the civil war at that point, or Congo, a country that has faced extreme violence, systemic rape of women, and big environmental devastation. She shared for me something surprising, because this is all very serious and heavy matter to work with. And basically what she shared is that she shared about the importance to align with the earth, perhaps the earth within ourselves, or with our true calling, with our own awakened heart, with our own awakened nature. And through that, to find the ways, to find the openings within our own lives, whatever that may be in this moment. And to find the openings and to recognize how things can fall into place when we learn to get out of our own way, and when we learn to listen to our own bodies, to our own hearts, to our own intuitions. And when we actually dare to take action on that, however small that action may be, it can actually set a current into motion, so that things would start to flow. And Cynthia says, when that starts to happen, it feels like magic. But this is truly, sorry, there's someone who is not muted. So I hear a little bit of interference. Great. Yeah, oh, it's going back and forth. I'll just continue. So when kind of the alignment starts to happen, it may feel like flow, or it may feel a little bit like magic. And this is actually how nature operates. If we look in the garden, if we have the good fortune to see a farm and see how vegetables grow and fruits grow, it's nothing less than a miracle, right? And that's how our own lives are part of that. So it's how nature operates. And the problem is that the consensus that we live inside of, which is a so-called ordinary reality, is a particular way of seeing the world. It's a particular way of seeing ourselves. It's a particular way of seeing the opportunities or the lack of opportunities. And specifically in this way of seeing, synchronicity, flow, and magic is unheard of. It's not even an option. It's not even talked about. So maybe for some of you, there is some skepticism present in this moment, and that's completely welcome. And that is part of the way that we've been growing up, and the way that I've been growing up. I'm learning here too, like, wait, how does life work, and how do I work? How does my heart function? And how does it work to actually come into that alignment? So what we want to do with our work is to help people to find that place where this alignment, this flow happens. And then you know without a shadow of a doubt that you're on the right path. And we need to create the right conditions for that to happen. So how do we make this practical? How do we create the right conditions for insight into our own purpose, into our own path to happen? How do we align ourselves with our own awakened nature, with the heart of the world, through connecting with our own heart? And how do we find our way when we're in the midst of confusion, pain, tiredness, not wanting to get out there, not wanting to think about all of this, and maybe just lock ourselves in and watch TV and eat chocolate and whatever we do, me included? How do we then still kind of move forward in ways that are helpful? So the answer that I want to present is very simple and yet difficult. It is to listen. It's to listen to our own pain, to our own confusion, and to actually slow down, to really take time to be with ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to learn ways to take care of ourselves, of our own feelings, our thoughts, and our bodies. And sometimes this does require courage or actually support from friends or professionals at some point. But the practices of walking meditation, which I will offer a resource for that can be shared with you later, or sitting meditation, it's really possible to cultivate a way of being with ourselves where everything is welcome. And when we take care of ourselves in this way, we are taking the same time care of those around us, what some of you mentioned. And by taking care of ourselves, we take care of the earth too. So when we learn to be with ourselves deeply, we as well start to hear the whispers of our heart. The more we're able to be with our own pain and suffering, and the more we're able to just hold it, it will soften, it will transform. And that will create a space for us to actually listen to our own true voice, to our own Buddha nature, our own awakened nature, which knows where to go, which knows what to do next. And you can trust that we all have that inside of us. And when we learn to be with nature deeply, we start to hear the whispers of nature, guiding us forward into the directions that we are meant to actually go. So we don't necessarily need to live the grand life of traveling the globe with sacred clay pots. That's not the calling for everyone. It may be more simple and small for us, or it may be a different big calling, who knows? But I can see that looking back in retrospect, many of the seemingly small decisions that I've made over the past 10 years, based on feeling, on intuition, and on daring to follow what I felt to be true in that moment, has led me to this moment in my life where many different connections are suddenly coming together, weaving themselves. I started, I think Benjamin mentioned, my travel in Nepal when I was 23. I'm 33 now, and I had no clue that what I was doing at that point, by just following my interest, would actually now emerge in the work that I do with the Earth Treasure Vases, with the connections with Tibetan Buddhism and the earth. And it's really becoming quite a clear pathway that's opening up. So to finish this share, I just want to share briefly more about my own personal journey around this to bring the message home, and perhaps you can relate more to it through my own very brief life story. So what I said, when I was in Nepal, when I was 23, I planned to backpack and party. But, all right, we're on 12 minutes. Okay, I'll just finish this little story. I was planning to backpack and party in Nepal as a 23-year-old, but quite quickly and unexpectedly, it became an unplanned Buddhist pilgrimage because I was extremely moved by my visits to the Tibetan monasteries. And later I found myself living for 2 years in Nepal and India, visiting many sacred sites related to Buddhism. And after that, I have had about 4 serious attempts to fit back into my old life. I was working for Dutch commercial television, earning good money, making career, and just really having a life in front of me that had some glamorous aspects to it. And parts of me would really enjoy that. But when I came back from Nepal, I could not find meaning anymore in that work. So it took me several years actually to really make the drastic change that I've made now. So I would find myself trying to go back into it again and again because it's kind of comfortable, kind of easy, kind of safe, but ultimately deeply unfulfilling. And I don't want to live an unfulfilled life, right? So last summer, I found myself living back in the Netherlands again and doing the same old. And I started to have symptoms of depression and burnout. And I really actually wasn't doing well. And I isolated myself because it's hard for me to reach out to actually share with family or friends like, hey guys, I'm not good, please help me. So in a way, I closed my doors and went through all of this quite on my own. And the good thing is, and this is the good thing, this can be the good thing about suffering, is that it sometimes forces us to actually really change and to look deeply, because we know that we can't live like this anymore. So I changed. I stopped my job, I quit renting, and I decided to open up to whatever would open up. And with a lot of grace and good fortune, I got a place for the Rains Retreat, which is a 3-month retreat in Plum Village in France. From the waiting list that opened up to be there. And that all emerged at the same time as I started to work together with Cynthia and the Earth Treasure Vases. So, right, the last thing I want to say, because this kind of brings home the interdependence and the magic and the connections. When I was traveling in Nepal, I visited a cave of my first meditation teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Lama Thupten Zopa Rinpoche. And when Cynthia and I were discussing about our work, our collaboration, only then we realized that the cave from my teacher is right below the cave of the 106-year-old Lama that she had visited so many years ago. So I've actually been in the same vicinity without knowing Cynthia, without knowing the Earth Treasure Vases, but feeling deeply connected to that region. And this can be just coincidence, right? It's one way of looking. I take a different way of looking. For me, it brings home the deep interconnectedness that's visible, the magic, the intuitions, the breadcrumbs that show and open that pathway. And the reason why I share all of this is because I'd like to invite us here now to look at our own lives as a great unfolding story. With whatever critic we may have, whatever reluctance or resistance we may have to see our own lives as a great unfolding story, I invite you to put those parts just aside for now. And I'll just invite one sound of the bell to kind of mark a little transition, and for you to, because I realized I spoke a lot, for you to take in all that I shared and just allow to land what really resonated with you. And then we'll continue in some experiential piece of looking at your own life. So maybe you'd like to stretch a little or do anything with your body to allow a little transition. So I'd like to take you on a little journey now, which is in the form of a guided meditation. So just give yourself what you need in order for about 10 minutes to be present in a relaxed way without falling asleep. And with as much openness as you can cultivate in this moment. As much curiosity as you can cultivate in this moment. To see your life from a different perspective. So first of all, just with your eyes closed, become aware of where you find yourself in your life in this moment. Is everything flowing well? Are you happy? Are you content? Do you feel a strong sense of purpose, vision, calling? Is that all there for you? Or do you find yourself on crossroads? Are you contemplating a change, however big or small? Or maybe you experience dissatisfaction with your current situation. And you want to change something, but you don't know how, you don't know where, you don't know what. And maybe you just find yourself in a blank spot, not really knowing. And all of that and everything in between is welcome. Just bring your mind, your awareness into your body, whether that's comfortable or uncomfortable or anything in between. Just in your own way, become present of the sensations of your body. Feeling yourself sitting here. I find myself rocking a little bit. If you sense that your body just naturally wants to make some sort of subtle movement, which is comforting or helpful, just feel free. Just again, come back to that sense of connection to the earth inside you or around you. And then in your mind's eye or in the eye of your heart, you find yourself walking. You're walking on a path. A long path. It's maybe a mountain path. It may be a path in the forest, in the jungle, a path on the beach, whatever calls to you. You're just walking slowly, mindfully, taking each step with care, with attention. Maybe feeling the ground underneath your feet, the subtle texture, sounds of the birds. So allow yourself to become really present on this path. You slowly walk and walk. In a way, while walking, you are contemplating your life. Where do I find myself in this moment? You continue to walk. How am I feeling truly about my life in this moment? What is the question, or what are questions that I carry? And along the walk, you find a place to sit down. It's maybe a big rock. It may be a tree. Maybe a patch of sand or a clearing in the forest. You sit down there. You really connect to this rock being or the tree being or whatever it is that you're sitting with. You feel the connection, perhaps you lean against it. Allow yourself to feel comfort. And there in the place where you are sitting, you become aware of a small lake, a small pool. It's crystal clear, reflecting. And when you look into it, you start to see your own past from a helicopter view. From a view that is free of any judgment. You just start to see the important moments of your lives unfolding up until to this moment. Start to see what has led you to this moment right here, right now. What are some of the key moments, the significant moments that may be indicating the interconnectedness, the weaving, perhaps some breadcrumbs or small pointers that may carry a hint of direction, of purpose, of meaning. Don't think too much about it, just see what kind of images or feelings may be coming up for you. Synchronicities. Or perhaps you're able to see some suffering you've experienced or are experiencing. Maybe you are able to see that in a different way, in a different light. It's in a way as if this small water, this lake, wants to really teach us something about ourselves. Give a different perspective. A perspective of hope, of light, of perhaps magic. Just allow yourself to open. And if nothing is happening, that's completely fine too. Just stay present, stay here, be open, stay curious. If you think your mind is thinking all of this up, just be curious and trust that whatever is coming up is what needs to come up. And that questions can come later, after the meditation. And now if this nature being that you're leaning against, the tree, the rock, or whatever it is, in combination with the lake, the water that you're looking into, imagine that the earth wants to bring you a message through this interaction, through this communication, through this conversation. What would that message be to you personally? What does the earth want to offer to you in this moment? May come in words, maybe a felt sense, it may be an image. Just be open and receive. You may be learning something about your life here, about yourself, that you didn't know yet. You may be reminded of something that you knew already. Just be silent for 1 minute, and then I'll invite the sound of the bell. Just take your time. So while you're remaining in this contemplative space, whether you have a sense you received something or whether you have a sense not much happened, all of that is cool and great and just as it is today. We're going to transition into our last piece of today. And that has very much to do with the meditation of just yet. So just allow yourself to really stay with your experience while I introduce what's up now. So I have an Earth Treasure Vase present here, which is destined to go to the Himalayas at some point. And I actually would like to invite all of you. Let me first say, when there is an Earth Treasure Vase, like what I shared, when Cynthia brings an Earth Treasure Vase to a particular place, she would come together with people to invite in to receive basically their heartfelt desires for their own lives, for other people's lives that we care about. But specifically intentions that we carry, being aware that we're part of a bigger life, that there's much suffering around us, and that we want to contribute. If that is true for you, that we want to contribute in whatever way is true for us, in whatever way is joyful for us, whatever way brings meaning to us, that we can actually bring a heartfelt intention, or I would sometimes even call it prayer, but we don't need to call it prayer. We can call it intention. Just something that is present in your heart that wants to be expressed right now and that you would like to have received by the Earth Treasure Vase, knowing that the Earth Treasure Vase at some point is traveling already to several sites and communities and beautiful places. Knowing that I will tend to the Earth Treasure Vase, I will tend to your intentions. It's like dropping seeds. I will water them, and ultimately flowers will grow. And we've seen enough with the 6-year Treasure Vase that we've worked with that things actually happen. So I invite you to be open to that, open to the possibility that whatever you intend for, or whatever you ask for, may be emerging in ways and forms that we can't predict. Like often things that we ask for come in different ways and in ways that are ultimately perhaps even more beneficial than we've realized. So I would like to offer that opportunity to you here today. And I don't know when the Earth Treasure Vase will go into the earth in the Himalayas at some point, together with your words, with your intentions that are being offered today. Okay, how does that sound? Are we up for that? Great. So I'll bring her forward. This is an Earth Treasure Vase. So it wears a dress, it wears cotton in 5 different colors, which represents the 5 different Buddha families, 5 different elements. And you could as well say the 4 or 5 directions. It is made with a lot of care. And the vase itself has actually been made in Nepal. It's been crafted there by Tibetan monks, according to an ancient traditional way. In ceremony, with how the Tibetans do that, with a lot of beautiful prayers and music, and really a wonderful atmosphere. So it's a small being, as you see. It's a small vessel, but a very beautiful and, to my opinion, a powerful healing tool. So I've opened it, and when I open it, that means that the vase is ready to receive words from the heart, and that can really be a wish, an intention, just what stirs you in this moment. We have time for actually everyone to speak. So I invite all of you, if you feel comfortable enough or courageous enough, to speak up and to share. Would it be okay to call on everyone? So because we have about 15 more minutes, so to keep it kind of flowing. Is that okay? Great. Rachel, can I start with you? I saw you nodding.
Yes. So this was really interesting during this meditation. At first, when I was imagining walking down this path, it was winter and all the trees were dead. And when you'd mentioned birds, sun rays kind of appeared. And I started thinking of animals, and that kind of like brought more sun. And when you had mentioned looking into the lake and seeing like our past lives or like everything that's brought us up to this point, I was just thinking of a lot of pain, a lot of painful things that got me to where I am now. And I actually had a memory of the strongest meditation I've ever had. And it was one where like I actually felt like full of love and connected to everything in the universe, and just very like sure that everything was okay, that everything was going to be okay. And it came from an aerial view of a small fishing town. And I don't know where or what that is, but yeah, somehow it felt connected to what was happening in this meditation. And yeah, just wanted me to, or made me think about how I want to feel just like that love and like assurance of knowing that everything's okay, that everything's connected. And yeah.
Beautiful. If you would form your experience and what's present for you now, if you would form that in one sentence of intention or wish for yourself, what would that be as an offering to this vase that will carry your intention?
Like one sentence of like what I wish to receive, or
I wish. Yeah, you can start with I wish.
okay. I wish to receive peace and fulfillment.
Thank you. May it be so. Amy, could I invite you in?
I wish that all beings be free from suffering as soon as possible.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy. Alex?
I wish to cultivate a life of humility in service of others with kindness and grace.
Warmly received. Thank you. Chris, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think about the Zen parable and the bird that can't sing and how they talk about the different ways they can't sing. My wish is to have the courage to sing to the bird so I can sing back.
That's very moving. Thank you. Kaya?
I wish for myself and the world to be embraced by truth and to dance.
And what was the last part? And two?
And to dance.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you, Kaya. Andrew?
I wish for a dynamic and participatory life involving others.
Sounds great. May it be so. Ava? Or Ava?
I wish to receive more mental slowness and some just really like deep appreciation for where I am at the moment, so I can more deeply reflect on life with more gratitude and just like more valuable reflection.
Yeah. Thank you. Benjamin?
My wish is to completely trust my life with love, to sing when it's time to sing, to dance when it's time to dance, and to listen deeply when it's time to listen.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Izzy, are you able to speak? I see you're in public transport.
Yeah, I'll try to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My wish is to find a path towards deep gratitude for all that exists beyond myself, and to let the energy of movement move me my body and dance, like some people said, more often.
Mm-hmm. 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 Thank you, Izzy. Josie.
My wish is to find my intuition and to follow it, and to continue growing with my connection to Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. Senshin, if you're able to speak, but I see your chat as well. Just assume that you're not able to speak. So may we be free from fear, hatred, and where is it? May we be free from fear, hatred, and violence. Yes, may that be so. And see Liberace. Sorry about that. Yes.
No problem. I wish to feel open and loose enough or free enough to accept and receive love, and fulfilled enough to give that love as well.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think everyone spoke, right? Yes. Okay. So just know that this vase is holding your intentions now. The ones that you spoke and the ones that you didn't speak, but that are present here in your heart. And know that I will water the seeds that are in here, and that at some point, this will go literally into the earth as one acupuncture needle in the Himalayas, transmitting energy, love, compassion, and all of the intentions and offerings that the vase receives for endless of times, hopefully. So thank you for being part of that. It's really awesome. It's really beautiful. I'll close her now. So we have about 8 more minutes. What I'd like to do is to open it up for 5 minutes, just for any reflections that you have about your insights today, or any questions that may be arising, or anything that you would like to reflect back in what way this has been of value to you, and if it has been of value to you. So it's just a sincere curiosity. So feel free to just be honest about your experience today.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but this felt like a very meaningful thing for me, and I don't fully understand it, but it feels important and meaningful.
Great. Just allow it to unfold, Rachel. I mean, I'm aware that much of what I've shared and much of this way of being, and with your treasure vases, it's kind of difficult to explain, right? It's not really coming from the thinking mind. So it seems you've been touched in a different, meaningful way. So just allow yourself to be with that, and it will take root in some way.
I think for me, this exercise definitely like made me realize how important it is, for me at least, to just like kind of put my intentions in words instead of just kind of having it in my mind. Because I feel like when I'm able to like narrate what I want to go towards, it's so much more meaningful, and it like leads me to like how I want to clarify it, And yes.
Right. Yes. It's in a way becoming clear, because what I've been trying to point to is really a relationship with life, right? And in a relationship with life, it's actually very helpful to be clear in what we ask for, what we invite in. And so actually, if you feel drawn, you can make that a daily or a weekly practice to just check in, like what am I emitting? What am I transmitting? What am I saying to life? And what am I inviting in? Thank you for bringing that.
I really enjoy the idea of linking intentions to objects or physical things. Is something that kind of switches, at least in my brain, how I understand that intention, or how I can visualize just the visual of a seed blossoming, or a progression, or something unfolding. It makes it tangible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm happy to hear that it felt tangible to you. That's really meaningful to me, actually. That's what I try to do, to make these things tangible and practical as far as I can. Thank you. Chris.
Yeah, I had this thought of elemental rituals. This one was like really like earth-based and planting the seed and watering it. But I also think of like the fire ritual where you write something and you burn it. So it feels like this is like a complementary or like a twin practice to that. And maybe there's like, yeah, like other forms of like elements that I could explore and stuff. So thank you.
Right. Cool. You've been sparked for further exploration. I love that. Thanks, Chris. It's time for one or two more. And if not, that's totally fine too, because there's one other thing I wish to share. I'll just give 5 more seconds if anyone actually feels the call, and otherwise I'll continue. Okay. So,
Sorry, wait, can I?
Amy, come in. Yes.
I'm like really desperate for help, so I have like really like depressing questions. Like, what about when like change feels hopeless? What do you do when you feel hopeless?
Oh, when change feels hopeless. Can you be more? Can you be more specific? Do you have maybe an example of what you point to?
I feel like Rachel was saying earlier, I feel very trapped in between like familial, societal, and like financial obligations. That it seems like I can't slow down from the like things that I'm entrenched in. I can't slow down. I have to remove myself entirely, but that means breaking a lot of like bonds and connections I have. Like the circumstances that I'm in seem very difficult to navigate, and like it's possible that I'm just not like skillful enough, but yeah. So yeah, just feeling trapped and like wondering like how much is like quote unquote like solved or bettered by like meditation versus changing my circumstances, but I don't know what to change. So
I get it. I think I get it. I get it as far as you can share in this short moment. And I'm aware that it's quite a complex question with probably many different elements in it, right? So I don't think I can do it justice in this last minute, but I really appreciate you bringing that forward. And actually, this is the next thing that I would say is I will put my email address in the chat. So Amy, if that would feel helpful to you to write and reach out, I'm happy to have a look at it and see if I can offer whatever I can offer in terms of reflection. So that invitation is there.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm aware we are on time. And the last thing first of all, I want to say thank you for being here and for moving with me through this material. It's been really rich and meaningful for me to share it with you. And what I want to share with you is that there is an opportunity to continue this specific exploration around purpose, living a meaningful life, mindfulness, these questions that Amy brought forward, some other things that you've shared around climate anxiety, which someone brought forward in the breakout room, all of that. We're going to offer a specific once a month circle for that starting this fall, which is called Earth Dialogues. So it's all about coming into conversation with the earth inside of us, the earth around us, and actually being able to gently, step by step, cultivate the changes inside that will cultivate the changes in our outer world so that we can start to live more in alignment. And you're very much invited. I would love for you to be there if this resonates with you. So I will put a link in the chat and I will send Benjamin as well some resources together with some information around this, which will be coming your way. So I just wanted to preface that offering if you feel called to explore that, to continue that exploration. Other than that, thank you. It's very nice to be with you. I'm wishing you a beautiful continuation of the retreat.